estimados ministros,
distinguished ministers, excellencies, distinguished María Luisa Riviera Viote, chef de cabinet of the Secretary General, ladies and gentlemen, I feel truly privileged to preside over the first commemoration of the International Day of Multilateralism and Diplomacy for Peace. I would like to recognize the non-aligned movement and all member states who promoted and supported the declaration of this International Day. Clearly, the message of all the main bodies of the UN, which we have just heard, reflects a perfect alignment with our determination to preserve and strengthen multilateralism. Excellencies, today I will touch on three essential topics. Firstly, I will refer to global challenges and the challenges of multilateralism. In this very assembly, we have heard that multilateralism is being brought into question, and we are facing a lack of trust in institutions in general and in our organization in particular. This is happening because we are living in an increasingly polarized world, a world which is ever more fragmented, with more problems and conflicts to resolve, from hunger to humanitarian crises, from climate change to terrorism. And this coincides with the resurgence of extreme nationalism, which bring into question the validity and the very existence of a rule-based international order. Excellencies, today the supranational and multidimensional challenges have increased. For example, we know that no country can escape the devastating effects of climate change. It represents an existential threat for mankind and for the planet. 650 million people live in extreme poverty, and more than 821 million suffer from hunger. Moreover, women in all countries, without exception, continue to suffer from various forms of discrimination and violence simply because they are women. There were also geopolitical tensions and conflicts which have not gone away. Wars continue to take lives of innocent people, of women, of girls, of boys. Terrorism persists. It respects no borders, no nationality, no age, no faith. Nothing justifies it. On this particular scourge, let me say yet again how sorry I am, and I wish to share my solidarity with the government and people of Sri Lanka and with the victims of the atrocious terrorist attacks which took place on Easter. I firmly condemn these events. I am dedicating this International Day and our efforts to all victims of violence and to these victims in particular. Excellencies, we cannot build trust in multilateralism if we exclude those for whom we are working, for those with whom alongside our states can provide solutions and fulfill commitments. Our people hope for an inclusive global governance, and that is why bringing the United Nations closer to people and people closer to the UN has been a standing priority of my presidency. In order to achieve this goal, we must learn to communicate better for people outside this building, and this leads me to my second point. I want to underscore the legacy of multilateralism and diplomacy for peace for our peoples and nations. Our organization has given light to key agreements of a universal calling which have made the world a safer place, a healthier place, a fairer place, with more opportunities for everyone. The Universal Declaration of Human Rights, whose 70 years we celebrated last December, arose from the heart of the General Assembly, as did conventions, compacts, and declarations referring to peace, to human rights, and to development, including, of course, Agenda 2030. In these 7 decades, the United Nations has been key in peacefully resolving conflicts and disputes. The United Nations has saved millions of lives. There is no region where the United Nations has not helped to bring peace. Its peacekeeping operations operate in difficult environments, protecting the civilian population and the most vulnerable. The staff deployed in these missions help to bring peace and to promote reconciliation every day. There is no doubt that the United Nations has transformed the fate of mankind. As the primary platform for dialogue and agreements among sovereign states, it has had a genuine impact on health, safety, well-being, and the dignity of millions of people. The constant search for agreements and our efforts to promote cooperation which respects diversity and differences among states are the driving force of our daily work. Through Resolution 73/127, this General Assembly is reaffirming the faith of our people in the purposes and principles enshrined in the Charter. And I reiterate the relevance of multilateralism and of international law to promote the common goal of lasting and sustainable peace through diplomacy. Excellencies, in order to achieve and sustain peace and sustainable development, multilateralism is not just the most efficient way, but the only possible way. We must put an end to the false concept that multilateralism undermines the sovereignty of states, when in point of fact it bolsters sovereignty. And for that reason, in every one of my activities within and outside this organization, I say this again and again: no country, however powerful, can resolve the challenges we are facing alone. Most leaders of the world share this vision. This was expressed during the general debate last September, in which they called for a stronger international rule-based system and a stronger organization. And this is the same support expressed through multilateral diplomacy in the meeting which I convened in February of this year with 7 former presidents of the General Assembly. We've done a great deal, that's true, but we still have much to do. Thirdly, I will refer to the need to revitalize our organization and to bolster trust in multilateralism. And at the same time, I would appeal for action. We must and we can make this organization stronger and more effective. Excellencies, every year, as of today, the 24th of April, will be an opportunity to assess the contribution of our organization to mankind. And in our efforts to seek better results, we must have an organization which is more effective, more transparent, more agile, and which genuinely meets the aspirations of our peoples. We must also ensure that our international order is more just, more fair. We must redouble our efforts to fulfill our commitments, eradicate poverty, reduce inequalities, ensure health and education for everyone, protect the environment, and establish peace. It is essential for us first to reach the most vulnerable and the excluded. These are the ones who are living in mistrust and in fear and in poverty. We must make the United Nations relevant for everyone. Yesterday, to broaden our dialogue, I convened an informal forum on the importance of multilateralism. The exchange was very substantive, but I would like to highlight one of the conclusions in particular. If we have tangible progress in implementing the Sustainable Development Goals, then that reality, that specific reality for people on the ground, will mean an improvement in their living conditions, and that result will be stronger than any statement we could make here in this forum. We are committed to changing and improving things, our working methods, the quality of the resolutions we adopt, but of course the implementation of these resolutions. We must consolidate and implement the reforms on which we agree. Let's make this organization and all of its parts work like a well-oiled clock. We must support the process of revitalization of the most democratic and representative body, the General Assembly. Let's take appropriate measures to modernize its structures and its daily work through multilateral diplomacy. In just 2 years, we will celebrate the 75th anniversary of the United Nations, and this will be a privileged opportunity to strengthen the foundation of this organization. We hope to see a world without war, without hunger, with less suffering, a world where all people are free and can enjoy the same opportunities of development and well-being. Excellencies, we have a singular opportunity to tip the balance on the right side of history. When people question, the answer should be more multilateralism, more cooperation. When faced with mistrust, the response must be more efficiency, more transparency. When faced with violence, the response must be more diplomacy, more dialogue. Faced with unilateralism, the response must be more solidarity and greater collective action. Finally, as President of the General Assembly, I wish to assure you that this commitment will continue to remain at the heart of my efforts to ensure greater dialogue, more cooperation, more agreements, and more action. Moreover, in particular, more action so that we can have a more peaceful world, a more inclusive world, a more humane world, a world that we dreamed of 73 years ago and that we can still make our reality. Thank you.